My name is Daniel Mercer. I'm 28 years old, born in upstate New York, raised by a mother who worked double shifts at a diner, and a father who vanished when I was 7. I suppose I should begin with something lighter, something easier, but nothing about this story is easy. This is the story I've never told anyone. I call it My Ex-Wife Sent Me Her Sister as a Gift. I remember the day with the clarity of a dream that feels too real. Rain had been falling over Brooklyn since dawn, a steady drumming against the office windows, muting the city's noise into something like static. I was staring at spreadsheets on my monitor, pretending to work while my mind wandered to the quiet weight in my chest, the kind you carry long after love has left you. Her name was Emily, my ex-wife, my mistake, my salvation, all of that and more. She'd left me 2 years ago, shattering our marriage like a glass dropped on tile. No children, no house, just us, her walking away with her silence, me left with the echo. I'd sworn I was done. Done with her, done with love, done with the reckless trust one used to give so freely. And yet, when the receptionist called my extension and said, "Mr. Mercer, there's someone waiting for you in the lobby. She says she's family," something twisted inside me. I wasn't expecting anyone. I made my way downstairs, tie loosened, pulse unsteady, and there she was, Sophie, Emily's younger sister. She looked like a ghost of the life I used to have, standing in the lobby with a dripping umbrella and that same shade of auburn hair, though hers was darker, falling over her shoulders in careless waves. Her eyes, sharp green, searched for me and softened when they found me. "Dan," she said, as if no time had passed, as if the world hadn't shifted between us. I froze. "Sophie, hi," she whispered, with a smile that wasn't quite steady. "Emily, she wanted me to see you, to check in. She thought you might need..." Her voice trailed off, then steadied. "A friend." That night, after I brought her back to my apartment. God help me, I didn't know what else to do. She sat cross-legged on my couch, peeling the label off a beer bottle. "You look older," she said softly. "Not bad. Just like life's been heavier on you." I laughed bitterly. "That's one way to put it." She studied me. "Emily told me you weren't doing well. She said you were..." She stopped, biting her lip. "She still talks about me?" Sophie hesitated. Sometimes, the silence between us wasn't awkward. It was loaded, humming with unspoken things. I remembered her at our wedding, 19 years old, smiling too brightly, as though hiding something. I remembered how, even then, she'd hugged me like she knew a secret. Now, sitting across from her, that same secret seemed closer, sharper, waiting at the edge of her words. The weeks that followed blurred into something surreal. Sophie kept appearing in my life, waiting outside my office, inviting me out for coffee, showing up at my apartment with takeout. At first, I resisted. "You don't have to do this," I told her. "I'm fine." She'd smile and shake her head. "You're not fine, Dan, and neither am I." It was the way she said it, the crack in her voice, the shadows in her eyes, that broke me. Because I realized she wasn't just Emily's emissary. She was running from something too. We started talking, really talking, about Emily, about the past, about all the ways family love can curdle into obligation. She told me about their parents, the suffocating expectations, the constant comparisons, the favoritism. Emily was always the star, Sophie confessed one night, her voice low. The perfect daughter, the beautiful one, the one everyone wanted to be around. Me, I was just the afterthought. I reached across the table and touched her hand. "Not to me." She looked at me then, and I swear the room tilted. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. One night, after too many glasses of wine, after too many confessions whispered in the dark, Sophie kissed me. Soft at first, like she was testing the idea, then harder with the kind of hunger that comes from years of silence. I should have pulled away. She was Emily's sister. She was off limits. But I didn't. The world outside disappeared. There was only her. The warmth of her skin, the tremor in her breath, the undeniable truth that this wasn't just loneliness. It was something deeper, darker, more dangerous. Afterward, she lay against me, tracing circles on my chest. "Don't hate me," she whispered. "I could never hate you." The suspense began when the messages started. It was late one Friday night when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. A single line of text. "Do you really think she's yours?" My blood ran cold. I glanced at Sophie, asleep on the couch beside me, and felt the walls of my apartment close in. Another message came. "She was mine first. Always mine. You never understood that." I deleted the texts before Sophie could see. But sleep didn't come, because I knew the truth. Emily hadn't let go of me. Not completely. And maybe, just maybe, she had sent Sophie not as a gift, but as a weapon. And that was only the beginning. The Monday after the anonymous messages, I sat at my desk in the marketing firm where I'd worked since college, trying to pretend life hadn't shifted beneath me. The hum of fluorescent lights, the rhythmic clicking of keyboards, the low murmur of voices, normalcy, or at least the illusion of it. But my mind wasn't in the numbers on the screen. It was in the buzzing silence of my phone in my pocket, every vibration sending a jolt through my veins. Dan, my manager, Rebecca, stood by my cubicle wall, holding a file. Her sharp gaze lingered on me too long. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a smile. "Didn't sleep much. Weekend was busy." She studied me for a beat, then dropped the file on my desk. "That campaign brief's due Thursday. Don't let your personal life get in the way." Personal life. If only she knew. That evening, Sophie waited outside the building, leaning against the hood of her car, a half-smile tugging at her lips. The streetlights painted her auburn hair in bronze. "Rough day?" she asked as I approached. "You could say that." We drove to a small Italian place she'd discovered, tucked between a laundromat and a bookstore. Over candlelight, she reached across the table, her hand grazing mine. "Dan," she said softly, "do you ever think about us? About what this really is?" My chest tightened. "All the time. And I don't know," I admitted. "You're Emily's sister. That should make this wrong. But it doesn't feel wrong when I'm with you." Her eyes glistened. "I don't want to be her shadow anymore. Not with you." I wanted to promise her she wasn't, that with me she was more than enough. But even as the words formed in my throat, my phone buzzed again. "Does she know you still dream about me?" I excused myself, stepping into the restaurant's dim hallway to read the rest. "She's only filling space, Dan. Space that belongs to me." My stomach nodded. Emily. It had to be. At work, the tension leaked into every interaction. Rebecca caught me daydreaming during a meeting, her eyes narrowing. "Mercer, if you're not committed to this team, maybe you need time off." Whispers followed in the hallways. My colleagues weren't blind. They saw the distracted man who once thrived in pressure, but now flinched at every notification. And yet, Sophie's presence kept me tethered. Nights with her were warm, intoxicating, filled with laughter and the kind of intimacy I hadn't felt even in marriage. She had a way of looking at me like I was the only person in the world who mattered. But love carries its own weight. One night, Sophie admitted the truth. "She knows about us." I froze. "Emily?" She nodded, eyes wet. "She called me last week. She said I was pathetic, that I'd always be the little sister chasing her leftovers." Anger flared in me. "That's not true." Sophie's lips trembled. "Then prove it. Tell her. Tell her I'm not just a shadow in your life." My heart raced. To acknowledge Sophie meant opening a war with Emily, one I wasn't sure I had the strength to fight. But before I could answer, my phone lit up again. Picture this time. My apartment door, taken from the hallway. The message read, "You'll never lock me out. I still have the key." That night I barely slept. Every creak of the floorboards felt like an intruder. Every shadow stretched too far. I lay awake beside Sophie, my arm draped over her as if I could shield her from a threat I couldn't even name. By morning, I decided to confront it head-on. I called Emily. When her voice answered, steady, cold, achingly familiar, I nearly lost my nerve. "Emily," I said, We need to talk. A pause. Then, flatly, so you finally figured it out. Figured what out? That Sophie isn't yours. She never was. She's mine to give, mine to take back. You don't understand the games we play. Her words sent a chill through me. This wasn't just jealousy. This was obsession. Stay away from us, I warned. She laughed softly, a sound I'd once loved. You don't get it, Dan. You were never free. Neither of you are. The line went dead. That week, the paranoia thickened. Sophie swore she saw a figure watching her outside her apartment. At work, I found a white envelope on my desk with no name. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed, "You don't know who she really is." My hands shook as I folded it back up. Sophie found me that night sitting in the dark, the paper crumpled on the table. "What did she do now?" she asked. I hesitated. "Sophie, there's something you're not telling me. About you. About her." Her silence was answer enough. She turned away, shoulders trembling. And in that moment, I realized the truth might not be as simple as Emily haunting us from the past. Maybe Sophie had her own shadows. Shadows I was just beginning to see. Sophie stood by the window of my apartment, arms wrapped around herself, staring into the streetlight haze. I could see her reflection in the glass. Eyes red, lips pressed into a thin line. "You think I'm hiding something," she said finally. "I know you are." My voice cracked, betraying the fear I tried to bury. "And I need you to tell me before Emily does." She turned, and for a moment I saw the girl I'd first met years ago. Timid, standing behind her radiant sister at our wedding, never quite belonging in the spotlight. But now there was steel in her. "When I was 19, she began slowly, I fell in love, deep, stupid love, with someone I wasn't supposed to." My chest tightened. "Who?" Her eyes locked on mine. "You." The air thinned around us. "You think I didn't notice you, Dan? Back then, before Emily claimed you as hers? Every word you said, every laugh, every look, it all went through me like fire. And when she told me she was marrying you, I felt erased." I swallowed hard. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Emily knew. She always knew. And she used it. She said she'd give me to you someday, like I was some pawn in her twisted game. She was obsessed with seeing who you'd choose when it really mattered, her or me." The words hit me like a storm. My marriage, my divorce, even Sophie's sudden reappearance. It all carried Emily's fingerprints. But the question that rattled in my skull was darker. Had Sophie come to me out of her own will, or because Emily had whispered it into her bones years ago? The next day at work, I tried burying myself in spreadsheets, but whispers followed me like shadows. Rebecca called me into her office. "You're distracted, Dan. The team sees it. I see it. If you can't separate your personal life from your work, maybe you shouldn't be here." I wanted to tell her everything, to unload the madness eating away at me. But how could I? Who would believe that my ex-wife was orchestrating this invisible war? Instead, I nodded, hollow. "I'll fix it." She leaned back in her chair. "I hope so, because one more slip, and you're out." As I left her office, my phone buzzed. Another message. "She's lying to you. She always has." Attached was a photo. Sophie, sitting in her car outside my building, head bent over her phone. The angle was wrong. It wasn't taken by me. That night, I confronted her. "Why do I keep getting messages about you?" I demanded, tossing the phone onto the coffee table. She glanced at it, face pale. "She's watching us. She's always watching." "That doesn't answer my question, Sophie. What aren't you telling me?" She broke. Tears slid down her cheeks as she sank onto the couch. "Emily and we made a pact years ago. She said if things ever went wrong with you, she'd hand you over to me. Like a prize." I stared at her in horror. "You went along with that?" "I was desperate," she whispered. "I thought it was the only way I'd ever have a chance with you." The walls felt like they were closing in. Every kiss, every confession, every night tangled in her arms. Had it all been poisoned from the start? And yet, when she reached for me, trembling, I couldn't pull away. Love, or something like it, still burned between us. But now it was tangled with betrayal, with manipulation, with Emily's invisible hands still clutching at us. Days blurred. Work became unbearable. Rebecca's sharp eyes, the muttered gossip of coworkers, the mounting deadlines. It all pressed against me like a vice. Then, one Thursday evening as I stayed late in the office, the elevator dinged, and she stepped out. Emily. She was more striking than I remembered. Hair perfectly styled, eyes as cold as the night she'd walked out of our marriage. She moved with deliberate grace, heels clicking against the tiles. "Dan?" she said softly, as if my name were an old song. I froze. "What are you doing here?" She smiled, setting a small envelope on my desk. Delivering the truth. Inside was a single photograph. Sophie, barely 20. Leaning against a bar, Emily's arm around her, both laughing. On the back, in Emily's neat handwriting, "She always wanted what was mine." I looked up, anger boiling. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you never really belonged to either of us," she said calmly. "You were just the test. The test. To see which of us could make you break first." Her words struck deeper than any knife. Before I could reply, Sophie burst into the office, breathless. "Dan, don't listen to her." Emily's smile widened. Right on cue, the two sisters stood before me. Fire and ice, shadow and flame. And for the first time I realized this wasn't just about love or jealousy. This was about survival. That night, after Emily left with her cruel smile still lingering in the air, Sophie collapsed in my arms. "She's not going to stop," she whispered. "She'll destroy us both just to prove she can." And I knew she was right. But what Sophie didn't know, what I hadn't dared to tell her, was that a part of me still heard Emily's voice in my head, still dreamed of her some nights, still felt the echo of the woman I had once called my wife. And in that fracture lay the seed of everything that would come next. The night after Emily's visit, I couldn't shake her words. "You were just the test." It replayed in my mind like a broken record, even as Sophie lay asleep beside me, her breathing soft and steady. I stared at the ceiling, torn in two. Part of me wanted to believe Sophie's love was real, that she had broken free of Emily's games. But another part, darker, wounded, couldn't forget the pact, the manipulation, the fact that my marriage and its aftermath had been nothing more than a performance staged by two sisters who treated my heart like currency. The worst part? I still loved them both, in different ways, and that truth disgusted me. The breaking point came on a Friday evening. I was leaving the office when Rebecca intercepted me. "There's a woman waiting downstairs," she said flatly. "She claims to be your wife." I froze. Emily was there in the lobby, immaculate as ever, smiling like she owned the air I breathed. She leaned close, whispering, "She hasn't told you everything," and she slipped a flash drive into my hand. Against my better judgment, I went home and plugged it into my laptop. Dozens of files appeared, emails, photos, call logs. Evidence. Proof that Sophie had been writing to Emily the whole time. The messages chilled me. Sophie updating Emily on me, on us. Confessions of nights we'd shared. Things I'd said. Fears I hadn't told anyone. And Emily's replies, "Good girl. Keep him close." My chest constricted. My hands shook on the keyboard. When Sophie came through the door, grocery bag in hand, I looked at her as though I'd never seen her before. "What is this?" I demanded, pointing at the screen. Her face drained of color. "Dan, I can explain. You were feeding her everything, every detail of us. How could you?" "I had to," she cried, dropping the bag. Apples rolled across the floor. "She made me. She said if I didn't, she'd ruin me, ruin us. You don't know what she's capable of." Tears blurred her eyes, and for a flicker, I believed her, or wanted to. But then came the final blow. "You don't understand," she whispered, trembling. "She always knew you'd end up with me. That was her plan all along. I'm not her shadow anymore, Dan. I'm yours." Her words, meant to comfort, landed like a curse. That night, I packed a bag. Sophie begged, pleaded, clung to me. Don't let her win. Don't leave me because of her. But my mind was spiraling. I could no longer tell where Emily ended and Sophie began. The manipulation was a web spun so tightly around me that love and deceit had become indistinguishable. I kissed Sophie's forehead one last time. She wept against me, whispering, I love you. I always loved you. And then I walked out. In the weeks that followed, I disappeared, quit my job, moved cities, changed numbers. Silence became my refuge. Sometimes, late at night, I'd wake in a cold sweat, sure I'd see Emily's shadow at the foot of my bed, or Sophie's voice whispering in the dark. But there was nothing, only me and the empty space where love had once lived. I realized then that love isn't always a gift. Sometimes it's a weapon. Sometimes it's the knife someone places in your hand and then guides into your own heart. Reflection. If there's a lesson in all this, it's that the people closest to us can sometimes be the most dangerous. Not because they wish us harm, but because they know exactly where to cut. I don't know if Emily won, or if Sophie did, or if either of them were ever really fighting for me at all. Maybe I was just the prize in a war that began long before I entered their lives. What I do know is this. When love demands you lose yourself, when it twists into something that leaves you doubting your own mind, that's not love, that's captivity. And so I tell this story now, not to reopen old wounds, but to remind myself. Walking away is sometimes the bravest act of love there is, love for yourself. Because in the end, I wasn't Emily's. I wasn't Sophie's. I was mine.